you can sometimes fool the patient a little bit by, for instance, preparing a fruit salad. If you use a half an apple, a half a banana, you cut in an orange, and you can even throw in some grapes and some other fruit that is handy. You actually have a relatively small dish, and the patient will easily eat it, while he wouldn't sit down and eat all that fruit if it is whole. So that's one way of increasing the patient's intake. Have a nice little fruit salad dish at his bedside for the evening or for the night. Another fruit dessert, which is very tasty and often appreciated, is simply baked apples. You can core the apple either with a corer or with a nice little sharp knife, and you can stuff the apple with raisins and bake them as you would any other way, in a glass dish or whatever, in the oven with a little bit of water. It becomes a very delicious dessert. And you could even stuff the apple with other dried fruit, apricots or prunes, or whatever hits your fancy. It's important to eat the fruit because they're high in potassium, and Dr. Gerson insisted that the patient should eat as much as possible, not cutting into his meals, but between meals, in the evenings, at night, and such. Another important factor, oftentimes patients are emaciated by the time they start the therapy, and they like to gain weight. Dr. Gerson suggested for those patients to have an extra plate of oatmeal before retiring. Again, the oatmeal could be prepared with fruit, with raw fruit, cooked fruit, stewed fruit, with a combination that is perhaps a little bit different from the breakfast food, but oatmeal is soothing and promotes sleep, and if it's taken in the evening, it soothes the stomach and the intestinal tract. It's all around very good, and of course also helps toward putting a little weight back onto the patient. Now, I'd like to show you a little bit how milk can be used to make the fresh, raw, salt-free cottage cheese for yourself. If you happen to be lucky and live in California, you can buy the Stuvie's raw, non-fat milk. That's the ideal. If you can get that, that is perfect. The way I make it into cheese, I simply put these half-gallon containers unopened into a large pot, and I fill the pot with water about up to there. And I then turn on the heat so that the water is just a little warmer than is comfortable for your finger or your hand. Do not bring it to a boil. Do not overheat it. It must be below 120. As it goes higher, then you start to destroy the enzymes that are present in the raw milk. That's the beauty of it. Then when the water reaches the temperature, simply shut it off. Let it sit. It'll stay there for quite a while, several hours. When it's cool again, just heat it up again a little bit, again to about the same temperature. It isn't very critical. You don't have to put it to exact temperature. You don't even have to leave it there. What's interesting, before you retire at night, you just warm it up again. Don't overheat it. You just warm it up again, and it'll stay more or less. Of course, by morning it'll be cool. It doesn't matter. It'll take between 26 and 30 hours to be done. When it's done, of course, the curds and the whey separate. And you can see that it's separated. And when that's done, then you take a cloth. Let me just show you. I have a different strainer for that. You take a cloth, you put it inside the strainer, and you simply pour your milk through the cloth and let it run through like a cheesecloth. This would be too tight. This is actually a juice cloth. You don't want to use that. You want to use something looser like a cheesecloth or several layers of cheesecloth. And then you separate the whey and the curds. The curds you put in your container, and after it's cooled, you refrigerate it. It's very delicious, and I'd like to just show you some cheese that I made yesterday or the day before, and tell you what the consistency is. Okay, this is the cheese. It's relatively soft. I leave a little bit of the whey in there so it doesn't get dry, and it's just smooth yet cheese, and it's delicious and fresh tasting, and you can do all kinds of things with it. You can mix it with yogurt and whip it into a dressing. You can put it on bread with tomato and use it as a little snack, and you can just add it for